Hi readers, welcome back to my channel. Lila Wanders and Reads, Lee here, and welcome to my weekend books. This is my weekend books for the final weekend in August 2024, and I will be talking to you about what I read and some plans for the first week of September. Tomorrow, I will bring you my August reading recap, and I have a ton of books that I read in August. I say 20 whole books. That's not actually accurate, but I'll tell you about that tomorrow. So, I have been, it's not very well reflected in this week, but I've been doing a Booker Book, Banned Book project for basically most of August. Some of August. Most of August. All of August. Where I've read a book that I owned on the Booker long list, and then I would read a book that was banned in the state of Utah for all public schools, and kind of bring some attention to the book banning that's going on in the U.S. So I started the last week of August with A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is extremely popular right now, and I've had this book for quite some time. But I've held off reading it because I thought that it might be overhyped, and in my opinion, it is. If Sarah J. Maas brings new readers into the fold, I am all about it, and I do not want to shit on their taste or what they like. I'm all about reading what you love, and if this works for young readers or old readers or anywhere in between, great. I'm happy for it. I will not be continuing the series. It wasn't for me. I started it, and it felt a little like Cinderella meets Beauty and the Beast, and I got some big Disney vibes in here, but there was one part I loved. Why did I love this part? I don't remember. And I'm sorry, this just was boring to me, and it was just not for me. I did go back because this was banned for sexual content, and I had to go back and reread the sex scene because it too was boring. There's nothing really. I've read far more graphic sex scenes. Forever by Judy Blume, much more graphic, actually much more realistic, especially it was talking about the first time. This is not Farrah's first time, but it's just not graphic at all, not anything. When you look at the context of the whole book, this is not pornography. I know that people want to try to say it is, but 2 pages in a book, you've got to look at the overall thing. Anywho, I am glad that I read it. I'm glad that even though it was a miss for me, I got to see what all the hype was about. And I get it. Another book that I didn't like that was overhyped was 50 Shades of Grey. And at the time, I was in a book club at work, and all the ladies wanted to read it. They were really excited about it. And again, I'm glad if reading makes you excited and it gets you to read, whatever floats your boat. But in that book, I found the main character, so insipid, and like 2 paragraphs in, I was like, I'm not finishing this. Anywho, so after this, I was supposed to read a Booker book, but I was watching YouTube, and somebody mentioned the Wayward Pines series by Blake Crouch, so I Googled it. I looked it up, and they had it in stock at my Barnes & Noble, so I bought the entire series, because I read Recursion by Blake Crouch earlier this year, and I loved it, and I love the Wayward Pines series. There are 3 books in this: Pines, Wayward, and The Last Town, and Usually that's not true. Sometimes I'm hesitant on buying a whole series at once because I don't know if I like it. I did that not long ago and ended up giving away that series. It was a 2 or 3 book series to my friend because it didn't work for me. But in this case, I'm so glad I did because Wayward ended on a cliffhanger, and the last town, I needed to read them all together back to back to back because it's all the same. It's one story in 3 books. I absolutely adored this series. Blake Crouch is somebody I'm going to keep my eye out for. Anything new that he publishes. I picked up yesterday a book of his called Dark Matter, and I will hopefully get to that in September. Next book is not a book that I started and finished. Wait, it is a book I started and finished in August. I didn't start and finish it this week. That was my nonfiction book for August, The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore. I read this for book club and didn't get it finished by book club day. We only had a couple weeks and I just couldn't get it. This was fascinating and infuriating. The treatment of women at the time, the fact that her husband could institutionalize her without a trial was infuriating. And then the manipulative doctor made me more furious because he was worse than the husband. You knew the husband was a dick, but the doctor was manipulative. He lied. He tried only to seek out his best interest. In the end, Elizabeth Packard was successful in securing her release and in defending her sanity and working for rights of not only women, but any people, the treatment of people in insane asylums. So she went down in history. Her husband, not so much. McFarland, the doctor, did, but they recently renamed a hospital that had been named after him to be named after her. 2 more books to talk about. The next one is Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. I don't know how I feel about this one. I think I gave it 3 stars or 3.5. I don't remember. It's not about the stars. There's some places where I find him so poetic and the language is so beautiful, and this is kind of a companion piece to There, which I read last week. I got tired in the middle of it. There's a point where I get excited because I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to figure out what happens after the final events of There. And then it was a really sad book. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes Tommy Orange is very poetic and I love it, but sometimes his writing style just feels like a chore to me, and I hate that. If he publishes again, and I'm sure he will I get it? No. Am I glad I read these 2 books? Yes. It gave me some insight into, I don't know the right word. It's not rural, the opposite of rural. The city life of Native Americans in the now and in the then, because Wandering Stars spreads generations. And for that, I appreciated it. And there's a lot of talk about drug and alcohol abuse and generational trauma and the fight to get free on that. I was satisfied with the way this ended. It just felt really hard for me to get there, and that is on me. Other people love this. We're all people. We have mixed opinions. So I was going to end August there, but I'm like, you know what? Here's a banned book that is going to take me absolutely no time because it is a book of poems. Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I am not sure how to pronounce her last name. I really should have Googled that first. And this is banned for sexual content. I loved this book of poems. I think she wrote it when she was like 21, and I wrote stuff like this when I was 21, and just so many of them. I had a poem marked, I thought, I do, to read to you. I could relate to so many of these poems. So there are 4 chapters, we'll call them: the hurting, the loving, the breaking, the healing. And it's really about a lot of things, about the lives of young women. You look just like your mother. I guess I do carry her tenderness well. You both have the same eyes, 'cause we're both exhausted. And the hands. We share the same wilting fingers. But that rage, your mother doesn't wear that anger. You're right. The rage is the one thing I get from my father. Like I said, I really loved this. There were some poems, many poems that I connected with. I loved her drawings. And right after I bought this book, I talk about this in another video somewhere. Right after I bought this, I found out that in October, I think, she's got a 10th anniversary edition coming out of this that will be hardcover, and it will have new poems and stories. So I pre-ordered it because I knew I was going to like it, and I love poetry. It's just been, this is the first time in a long time that I've read any poetry. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books this week. 6 that I read, 1 that I finished, and that was The Woman They Could Not Silence. What have I got on tap for September? We'll just start with the first week. My non-fiction book for, September is Home Before Morning, The Story of an Army Nurse in Vietnam by Linda Van Devanter. I am probably, if it goes the way I think it's going to go, I will probably do a standalone Women in War review on this book. Here's the secret. For my nonfiction, a lot of times I always take the book to work with me, and hopefully we'll be able to squeeze out 30 minutes or so of reading at the end of the workday when things have started to settle down. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with this one. I've got my pages in for today. Basically, I read the first chapter and the prologue. Forward is what it's called here, and I teared up already. It's chapter 1, and I've already teared up. So I can't be crying at work. That just won't work. And I think that this is I might either try to read pages in the morning, but probably not, or directly when I come home from work. Because to get it done in a month, I only need 11 pages a day, and that's about a chapter a day. And there are 22 chapters. Yeah. Chapter 22 is called You Were My Heroes. I'm tearing up just thinking about it. But yes, I will definitely, probably, do a standalone Women in War series about Linda Van Devanter and this book. On the fiction side, it is time for another Booker book. And this one is kind of a tome. I might not get a lot read this week. That is This Strange Eventful History, a novel by Claire Massoud. This is a large book, but it is only 426 pages. So, we'll see. I'm hoping this is an easier read for me than Wandering Stars was. I don't know how it will go. But, again, we'll see. So, I will let you know what I think about this, and this will take a little bit longer, but I'm already loving this book. Have your Kleenex at the ready. Anywho, that is it for me and my week in books. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with my August reading recap, which has got these books, and a whole bunch more that I finished. August was a really good reading month for me. One note, I have got a book haul that's posting on Wednesday. I recorded it yesterday. One of the books in that book is called The Woman in Black. And there's a movie and that's based on the book. And what I say in the book haul is the movie's called Daniel Radcliffe. I did not mean to say that. It's a movie starring Daniel Radcliffe. So, hey, I don't edit these. I like being natural, and sometimes I misspeak because my brain gets ahead of my mouth, and that is just one example. Anywho, happy Labor Day. Happy September. I'm hoping it cools off here in the South soon. If you've read any of these books or have any thoughts on any of these books, love them, hate them, disagree with my opinion, please put your notes down in the comment, or reply to the comments. See, there I go misspeaking again. And I try to answer all comments. If you do and I've missed it somehow, I try to go back and check it. So, anywho, happy reading.